Hello, you. We are here today to talk about You Season 4, Part 1, full spoiler talk. So if you guys have not seen it, drop a like, come back and watch us after you've watched the first 5 episodes. I'm joined by Cam. This is just going to be a laid-back spoiler talk. What are your overall thoughts, your consensus? How you feeling?
I like it. I love Penn Badgley. I love anything he does. So even if the show goes to I'm still here for Penn. I think it's weird that it's split up into 2.
I completely agree.
It feels like nothing's really happened yet.
Really slow moving for the first, I'd even say 3 or 4 episodes. Probably the first 3 episodes. We're just so accustomed to watching 10 episodes, back to back to back to back. This time around, it almost felt like right when it started to get really entertaining, it was like, okay, we're gonna cut it off. And it really didn't feel necessary to split the season in half. Story-wise, the Eat the Rich killer, Joe finds out who it is, and we as the audience find out who it is. It's Reese, which we'll get into in a sec. Now, is the end game of the season, oh, Joe's gonna take down Reese, who's now running for mayor. That is less interesting to me than finding out who this killer is. It feels like the trick is up.
I mean, I still think there's gonna be something else to
it.
I think they split it in 2 because of Stranger Things being split in 2, but the thing is that Stranger Things split in 2 because they still had a lot of visual effects that they were correcting and fixing in episodes 8 and 9. I don't really think that that's what they're doing. I think they just did that in terms of wanting to space it out.
But the cool thing, I guess, about this season is it's a murder mystery. It flips the script, essentially. Joe, who's Jonathan Moore now, and he's an American professor over in London.
I really wanted him to have a British accent, so that's upsetting.
That would've been cool. This season, he is literally a professor, and he gets intertwined in this murder mystery, essentially. He becomes friends with this group of people who are, just the worst. They're very rich, upper-class people, and they look down on everyone else, and that's, a running theme throughout the whole season. But he gets intertwined with a lot of characters. His neighbor across the way, Malcolm, is the murder that kind of sparks this whole thing. I guess Joe doesn't kill for a while. He doesn't kill, but he is the main suspect, and the fun thing about this season is it seems like someone's stalking Joe. He starts to get these mysterious messages through this app called I almost said Evanescence.
That's what I said when it was on the show.
Basically Snapchat with iMessage. Joe goes out to the club and he's partying, he's drunk. He wakes up and near the end of the episode he sees Malcolm stabbed and he's like, I didn't do this.
All of our victims are killed in the exact same way. They're all stabbed with a knife. I think that it's not just Reese. I think that there's someone else behind it, or someone working with Reese or paying Reese. I think it has to be somebody from Joe's past.
Someone related to Love.
Oh my gosh. What if Uncle Jesse comes back?
Could come back. You're right, actually. I didn't even think about that.
I think Love can come back because we never really saw her body. We just saw her laying on the floor while the kitchen was on fire, but I didn't see her body catch on fire, so as far as I'm concerned, Love could still be alive.
Yeah, she could be. But in terms of love interests this season, Joe has a new one in Kate, who is the person who's dating Malcolm, the guy who dies. And they end up having this weird relationship throughout the season. She is hard to read, I'll be honest.
I like her. I like the actress.
Yeah,
she's really
she does
good.
a great job. A lot of performances here are great.
It's just really hard, I think, to follow up the character of Love because, we had Beck and she was just normal. And then we have Candace, who is semi-normal, but also still kind of a little batshit crazy. And then you have Love, who's fully batshit crazy. Arguably crazier than Joe, depending on where you're looking at it from. To go from someone so crazy to him being interested in someone who's not crazy at all, it's definitely hard to follow up.
I don't know where the relationship's headed in the back half of this season, and a big part of this whole almost love triangle that develops is the character Rolled, which has the most pretentious name I might have ever heard. He's a very hateable character. There's moments where he could kill Joe. He thinks he knows it all, and he doesn't.
Hunting him in the woods?
Yeah. The first 3 episodes of this is a murder mystery, but it's a very tame, sort of slow moving, and then the last 2 episodes they go to this massive house
and then they have an actual murder mystery party.
And they have an actual murder mystery party. So it was sort of self-aware in a way, which I enjoyed, but there's this shot where, Rold comes in and he thinks he's on to Joe, and he pushes him out the window. There's a funny shot where his eyes are in the back of his head, and he goes... Phoebe's another character here who's the most famous of them all of the group, and she dates this guy named Adam who has some weird...
Genuinely the weirdest shit that I've ever been forced to look at in my entire life.
There's some really uncomfortable, strange, disturbing even scenes in this season, and it's funny we mention that because it's disturbing in that light, but in terms of violence, I think this is the tamest of the 3, unless I'm forgetting something. There's a few stab wounds to the chest.
Well,
the character Gemma gets
fully
slit.
Cut off legs and arms.
This is true. That was pretty gruesome.
Parts.
That was gruesome. But like we mentioned, I feel this was a lot of setup, but even then it didn't set up that much. The back half of the season is going to bring it home.
The reason why it doesn't feel as gory, I guess, is because Joe is trying to hold himself back. He's trying to start over. I hope in part 2, Reese is a catalyst to making him kind of fall off the ledge, and maybe he kills a couple of people.
Again, I feel a little unsatisfied. I didn't hate it. I know I sound like I'm kind of taking shots at it here. I enjoyed it. We watched it back to back. It's unfinished, you're damn right it is. It didn't feel justified. Like when Stranger Things split, there was like a great like reveal and it was like, okay, we actually need to deflate now.
Yeah, that
like the reveal here was just, it was lackluster almost.
I won't say anything that's in it, but if you let the last episode play out, it goes into like a sneak peek of what part 2 is, and what's in that part 2 sneak peek got me far more excited than anything that happened in the first 5 episodes. Like I stood up out of my chair. Underwhelmed at the current moment, but I am eagerly anticipating part 2.
It almost felt like anticlimactic is the word I want to use. They built it up and this Eat the Rich killer was revealed, the person who was messaging Joe as Reese, and they have like this brief confrontation and he's like, okay, I'm gonna lock you up and leave you here in this fire, but come find me in London. And it was like he just disappeared.
And to be fair, if we're looking at where this show split and where Stranger Things split at episode 7.
Yeah.
As opposed to if Stranger Things had split halfway down the middle, they would have split at like what, episode 5. And if we look at like something like Outer Banks, if they cut off at episode 5, it takes a while for Outer Banks seasons to get going. It takes a while for things to get going. I think it would have been better if we got it all at once. But I'm sure once we do get it all, we'll enjoy it.
Just like in every season, there's some like dark comedy moments that had me chuckling.
Very funny. Ever since I like saw him talk about how like all of his lines are just dialogue in his head, I think about what it would look like if someone edited the show where when someone talks to him and then it's silence when he's just staring at them and not responding.
Yeah.
He's like so quiet. I will say this, he called that Reese would be the killer. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah. I was like, it's too good to be true how polite he is, and then he just disappeared. So in a sense, it was a little predictable too, but we'll see, you know, if Joe, what's his plan to get back at Reese, who is running as mayor of London now.
I didn't even know London had mayors.
Yeah, I don't familiarize myself with across the pond politics.
The monarchy.
Will certain characters from his past make a return in part 2? I desperately hope so.
I'm curious to see. I'm blanking on her name, but the girl that's like his student.
Her name is Nadia.
I feel like she's gonna
She has to play a role. I think
play
so.
a role in part 2.
She was sleeping with Malcolm, and Joe did some things for her, so this is true.
I think she'll be important. I like her character too. She's fun.
There's a lot of open-ended aspects as we head into, I almost said season 5, but part 2 of season 4. I hope that it sticks to the landing because I do enjoy you, and like you mentioned, Penn Badgley and this character, it's just so fascinating to watch. How's he going to get out of these wild scenarios? But we'll have to see what happens in the back half on March 9th, so stay tuned for our spoiler review of that. But let us know down below, what do you guys think of You Season 4 Part 1? What are your predictions as we head into Part 2? Did you love this? Did you hate it? To me, I can't even compare it to the other seasons just yet.
Because
it's incomplete.
That's unfair.
Incomplete.
Prediction-wise, I'm really hoping and crossing my fingers that Love is alive, because here's the thing. Number 1, I love the girl that plays Love. She's an amazing
Victoria
actress.
Pedretti, she is.
She's so good. And I love the character of Love. And I just think, so far, this doesn't feel big enough to be the final season. I feel like...
Is it supposed to be the final season?
No,
Oh, okay.
we don't know.
Oh.
I'm saying, like, if it is, it doesn't feel big enough.
No way. It doesn't feel earned yet.
If they go into a season 5, we're gonna have to have something that's really gonna make season 5, like, the biggest yet. Yeah. And I think that literally the only thing you could do that would make it crazy is if Love got out of the house and survived and is
possibly
terrorizing Joe or something.
Yeah, and it's possibly being teased. I want Jenna Ortega back, but I don't think that will happen.
Next season.
Next time, baby. Yeah, but thank you guys for watching. Follow Cam on all of our social medias. They're linked down below. Subscribe and hit that notification bell. And we will see you guys in our You Season 4 Part 2 spoiler talk. Peace.